Hello and welcome to Detox. My name is Damien Bannister. Thank you for joining me today. If you're here from my previous podcast, The High Life Hour, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for keeping up with me. Greatly appreciate it. I didn't forget about you, but I wanted to start this new podcast for a few different reasons. One being that I'm just a naturally curious person. And I know there's a lot to learn in the world. There's a lot of strange things that most people don't know about. And I'm on a mission to find these things and learn as much as I can about them. And I'm hoping that you guys come along with me, either learn something about yourself or at least learn something that you didn't know before. That's my main mission. So I'm going to talk to a bunch of everyday people just like you and I. I'm going to talk to professionals who've studied something very deeply that may be obscure to most people. That's my whole goal. And if you're here listening to this now, that means you're on board. We're going to have a good time. And thank you for listening. And I also appreciate your patience. Thanks for waiting it out. I've been a little behind, but that's okay. We're about to do some fun shit, so buckle up. But before we get started, I want you guys to know that if any of you have any topics or ideas that you want me to further explore or see if I can find somebody who knows a lot more about it, please feel free to let me know. You can DM me on our Instagram page, comment on the YouTube page, whatever you got to do to contact me. If you want to know something, let me know. Or if you have any questions, you can do that as well. I would be more than happy to answer them on the air or off the air, whatever we decide. We're just going to go with the flow on it. To kick off this new series, I had the pleasure to talk to probably one of the most interesting guests I've had the great fortune to talk to. The one and only Elle Embers. She is a podcast host. She's an Aussie. She's actually a spiritual practitioner as well. She specializes in past life regression as well as cosmic channeling. And if you stick around towards the end, you get to see her actually demonstrate her cosmic channeling abilities. And if you don't know what that is, also stick around. She's going to explain it. It's really, really cool. And she is definitely one of the coolest people I've gotten to talk to so far. And I'm very excited for you guys to listen to our conversation. So once again, here is Elle Embers. What is that near?
The Gold Coast?
I had a very close person of mine. She lived in Sydney, and she
Yeah.
moved all the way to Oklahoma, which is a strange place to move to, I think, from Sydney. But she was really great. So I've always wanted to visit Australia. She's told me a lot of very good things.
Yeah, it's nice here. Sydney is a little further south
Mhm.
than where I am, but it's about an hour and a half on a plane. It's not too bad.
Oh, okay, cool. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I am a past life regressionist. I am a cosmic channeler. I'm an energetic coach. I'm a podcast host. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. That's pretty much it.
How
Yeah.
did you get into that?
I kind of didn't get much of a choice. um, when I was about, I think my youngest memory, I was about 4. And I could see things, hear things that other people couldn't. And my family wasn't, like, we weren't religious. My parents were
Mhm.
Buddhist. So growing up in a home, that reincarnation's kind of the belief system when you die.
Mhm.
I guess it just kind of came naturally that I would end up in this field. But
Mhm.
at the same time, growing up and seeing things that other people aren't seeing and hearing and knowing information about people and dead relatives that you really have no business knowing. It kind of freaks people out. So my parents would always be like, just don't mention it. Just keep it under wraps. People will think you're crazy. And I thought I was crazy. By the time I realized this was something that not everyone else could do, I was like, maybe there's something wrong with me.
Oh.
And And so I kind of grew up, I guess, pushing a lot of myself down and
Mhm.
hiding because I was like, well, I need to fit in. I need to be like everyone else. And so like when I became heading into my teenage years, I lost my mum. She had a terminal illness and she passed away when I was
Mm.
about 12. And my dad was a fly in, fly out worker.
What is
So
that?
in Australia, we have a lot of mines that are around
Oh.
the country. And
Uh-huh.
if someone works in the mines or they work, it's not even just mines, like there's other industries that do it as well, construction, things like
Mhm.
that, you basically fly out to the job and you live on site and then you're there for maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 weeks, and then you come back home for a week.
Ah, I
So it's kind
see,
of like
okay.
3 weeks on, 1 week off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. Gotcha, just had to
So
clarify.
yeah, yeah. So it was kind of like he was around, but he wasn't around because of work.
Mhm.
And so home was kind of disrupted a lot when mum passed. So I was staying with my grandparents, and it was tough losing your parents at a young age. It's you don't really know how to carry on from that.
Mm.
And going through these emotions at a heightened rate or heightened experience, going through grief, it was making all of my, I guess, my channeling abilities, my mediumship abilities go into overdrive. So I used to be able to push it down and ignore it and
Mhm.
be like, yep, no, this is not happening. I'm totally fine. But it got to a point where I just couldn't ignore it.
Mm.
And it was demanding more and more of my attention.
What kind of
So,
things were happening to you that made you realize like, "Oh, something's happening to me that I can't quite control?" Like, what are some examples of that?
yeah. So, when I say that I used to be able to push things down, it was like
Mhm.
someone was just there in the background. Say, for example, I was talking to you
Mhm.
and you had someone standing behind you that you couldn't see. And it could be like a relative or a friend or something that had passed on. And they'd be like, just chilling out. They'd be like, what's he up to today? Like, what's Damien got on the day? But and they just kind of like walk around and just they'd be curious about what you were doing, where like who people were and like what they were looking at. And they just kind of like go on about their business.
Hmm,
And that was really easy to ignore. Occasionally, they'd be like, wait a minute, you can see me? And then they'd be like,
really?
oh, I have shit I want to say.
Of course, of course. How did that
So,
happen to you very often whenever you were younger? There's like, "Oh, wait, like, you can see me, let me just rattle off a bunch of stuff I want you to tell everybody." Like, did that happen a
pretty
lot?
much, yeah.
Wow.
But if I didn't acknowledge them, they wouldn't come to
Mhm.
that awareness that I could see them.
Okay, it makes
So
sense.
I could avoid it. But going through those heightened states of grief and
Mhm.
high emotions, I was, I guess, more perceptive because I was more on edge. And
Mhm.
so things that were showing up, I was like, oh, that took me back for a second. And they're like, oh my God, you can see me. Okay, here's all this shit. And I'm like, I just want to be normal.
Like, "I'm 12,
So,
like, come on,
yeah,
give me a break."
exactly. So I started kind of questioning, like, obviously my sanity, which I'd been doing my entire life. And so I went to a bunch of different, like, pediatricians and therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists being like, what is wrong with me? Clearly, I have some sort of brain injury or like mental illness. But after having, I don't know, a couple of years worth of ongoing testing and like um therapy and things like that, just like we can't find anything wrong with you. So, you know, medically, you're not crazy. You're, we don't really know what this is. And I was like, okay,
It
cool.
wasn't quite the answer you were expecting to hear from them?
No, I was really kind of preparing myself for like, multiple personality disorder or
Mhm.
schizophrenia or something along the lines of there was something not quite right. And
Mhm.
everything was fine. Everything was normal. They kept telling me like, "Nope, you're fine." Okay. And it just got so intense to a point being a teenager that I was like, well, how can if I'm normal and they won't medicate me, like, what can I do? So I did the whole normal teenage thing of I'm going to go
Mhm.
party and drink enough that I'm so drunk that I'm just going to, none of it's going to matter.
Mhm. Like, nobody will care.
Exactly.
I get it, I get it.
So, and I thought this was great because, if I was in an intoxicated state, they would generally leave me alone and they wouldn't bother me because they're like, she's got some
Mhm.
shit she's got to deal with. It was just kind of doing that for a while. And I guess I didn't realize at the time, the more I did that, the more I guess these spirits would be like, okay, yeah, the good ones would be like, yep, cool, we'll leave her be. But
Mhm.
maybe the not so good ones were like, well, she's in a vulnerable position. Maybe we can fuck with her.
Oh, no. So they were just messing with you the whole time?
Yeah. I
Wow.
ended up
Like what?
becoming uh, I ended up becoming like a beacon for just like
Like real
dickhead entities.
negative? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's the worst. And, like, you're already hammered, so, like, I imagine all that just, like, extra stuff coming at you is gonna be make you even more bewildered or anything like that.
Right?
Goodness.
They would get to
Yeah.
points where like they would throw things at me. And yeah, so things started like
Whoa.
progressing worse and worse. And it ended up getting physical. So people would get scared to come to my house because they're
Mhm.
like, oh, every time we go to Elle's house, our drink flies off the counter. We get pushed in the hallway. Like, I don't want to be here.
That does sound very scary. I understand why why they would be, pretty freaked out about that.
It just kept getting worse. Like, I would have I had a housemate because I ended up moving out of home.
Mhm.
And my housemate and we would always end up sleeping in the same bed together because her and I were both terrified of like whatever was going on in the house at the time. It was just, we'd wake up and, we'd have bruises all over us and scratches all over us. And it got really, really bad. And I started just fearing for my life.
Yeah, no
And I
kidding.
was like, great, what do I do now?
Yeah, what do you do? What was your thought process, I guess, whenever that it started to get way more aggro and physical, besides obviously being afraid for your safety? Like, did you think like, oh, do I got to go to some priest or something to come help me get these evil ones like away from me, or what was your thought process?
Well, I mean, you're pretty straight up there. Like, you're pretty on point because I wasn't religious and I didn't
Hmm.
really know anything about, I guess, like bad entities or like demonic shit. Like, that just
Hmm.
never occurred to me. But I'd seen movies. And so I started watching, sounds weird, but I started watching more and more horror films. And I was like,
Hmm.
great, okay. They're like, obviously, I was looking at things that resembled possession, but I wasn't feeling like I
Hmm.
was possessed. But I was like, great, okay, the priest fixed it. So maybe if I
Let's
go
give
find
him
a
a call.
church, yeah,
Hmm.
if I go find a church, maybe this will sort itself out.
And did it?
But no, not quite.
No. Oh.
I I joined a Christian church and I did all the things they told me I should do, and was going to all these prayer groups and things. Nothing was changing. Like, it was still all the same. And there was one night I went to this prayer group, and I went to the bathroom, and I have no idea what they thought because I was gone for so long. But I had this confrontation with this dark entity in the bathroom because I was at this point of like, you know what? If you're gonna kill me, just do it. Just
Yeah,
get it
right.
over with. Like, I'm
Stop fucking with
done.
me. Just go do it. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
I was like, I'm so done with this bullshit. Like, I don't want to play
Mm-hmm.
this game anymore. I was just so beaten down. And I had this confrontation. And in the past, every time something would happen, I would be in this place of fear, right? Because I'm like, well, this is fucking scary and they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to hurt me. I don't know what I'm meant to do. So it would just be sort of a trying to protect myself, trying to, I guess, cower away from it. Where this time I was like, I'm fucking done. And so I stood up and I was just like, you know what? Either do what you're gonna do or fuck off.
Oh, for real. Love that.
And like,
Did he fuck off?
yeah. It was
That's all it
like,
took.
if
That's all it took.
right, it's all it took.
Wow.
And like, I just was losing it, going, oh my god, did that work? Like, I was so angry, so
Mhm.
assertive, and so just, you know what, I'm done. That was what all it took. But I spent, I don't know, maybe probably the next couple of months just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, is this going to happen again? Are they coming back? But yeah, I was able to live a pretty normal life there for a few years. And it wasn't until I reached my early 20s and we had a friend pass away suddenly from a heart condition that we didn't even know he had.
Oh.
And I think he was like 23 at the time.
Oh, so young.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So everyone in our group of friends were just kind of trying to make sense of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my best friend, she kind of started on this spiritual self-discovery journey, trying to find, like, why are we here? What's our purpose? Like, the reason for being alive and the reason, I guess, why we lost our friend.
Mm-hmm.
Just finding or searching for some meaning. And she remembered bits and pieces of me growing up and like some Buddhist, I guess, stories and mentalities and things like that. And she was like, oh, do you remember like this, and this? And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. She's like, oh, I'm, doing this new practice and I'm, doing this and I'm doing that. And she was pulling herself out of that hole of depression, right? And I was like, oh, yeah, I do remember a lot about this. It's all coming back. Like, why don't we do this together?
Yeah.
And having a friend is always beneficial when you're trying to do anything. And
yeah, teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Exactly. We just kind of started on this road to like self-discovery in each other. And when I started my journey, I kind of had to learn to accept who I was and what I could do. So when I finally came around to not being ashamed of my abilities, not trying to diagnose them as some sort of mental illness, and just accepting them for what they were, I really kind of found myself coming into learning how to use them and how to control them and how, in what ways they were beneficial and how they could help myself and other
Mm-hmm.
people. And it just kind of did this snowball effect of journeying into past life regression that was
Mm-hmm.
so transformational for me. And yeah, it all just kind of took off from there. I connected more with my spirit team and was
Mm-hmm.
able to start channeling and actually purposely talk to spirits and get information.
The tipping point, that's what started your origin story.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's fantastic. So what exactly is past life regression? That sounds very, very interesting. I'm not too familiar with it.
Yeah, so you've never had a regression or anything like that?
I don't think so. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe? I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. What
It's
exactly
possible
is it?
you've had a variation of it. I know a lot of
Mm-hmm.
therapists use like timeline techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So like they'll ask you to visualize back to a certain time in your life.
Okay.
It's kind of similar. So obviously the concept of reincarnation, right, is, when we
Mm-hmm.
die, we come back and are born into a new life, new body, new challenges. And that's the theory of reincarnation. But the past life regression aspect is that potentially it's all theory, right? Because we can
Mm-hmm.
never prove this is what
Yeah,
happens,
yeah.
but our body doesn't remember the past because it's a new body, but our
Mm-hmm.
soul does. And so all these memories of our past lives, our past experiences are all locked into our subconscious mind. And so we as regressionists kind of bring you and your brain into this theta brainwave state, which is the state that your brain goes into when you dream.
Mm-hmm.
And we unlock your subconscious mind to gain access to these memories. So during a regression, you can go and revisit experiences, memories that you've had in past lifetimes to kind of see who you've been, where you've been, and what you did throughout time. And a lot of the time, the reason we do this is because there's some things that stick with us, some experiences, some memories, even in our
Mm-hmm.
current lives, we're like, wow, that was a really defining moment and that's going to stick with me.
Mm-hmm. That
So
carries
same
on.
thing. Yeah. Same thing happens
Hmm.
throughout different lifetimes. It's kind of like, for example, if someone has like a severe fear of flying, but they've never been on an airplane, there's no reasonable, logical explanation for why they have that fear.
Mm-hmm.
But potentially, in their last lifetime, they could have died in a plane crash. And that's instilled this
Yeah.
fear.
Maybe I have. Maybe I did have one of those. I have this fear of the ocean. And I'm not entirely sure what caused it, which is strange because I was born in San Diego, California. It's on the west coast of the US. And so I was at the beach fairly often, and I don't know why. Like you'd think I'd be used to it growing up near the beach, but not a big fan of the ocean. And so now that I'm thinking about it, maybe my past life drowned in the ocean or something, and that's
Yeah,
what causes my
maybe.
fear of the ocean. I don't know. Maybe.
The ocean's a really good example because it's really common. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people have been sailors in past lives, explorers,
Mm-hmm.
they're on ships for months at a time. People are dying, getting sick on board, they're getting thrown overboard, like
Mm-hmm.
all these
Mm-hmm.
different things, getting eaten by sharks, like all the sort of,
Oh, that would be the worst. Yeah, no, that could be it. I don't know. But how do you? Okay, so you said in order for people to experience that, you get them in sort of like a lucid state, like while they're asleep, so they're able to remember these past lives. Um, is that correct?
Yeah, it's very, very similar. So we call the technique that I use is quantum healing hypnosis technique.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of a form of hypnosis, but it's not your typical look at the the swingy watch and listen to the sound of my voice. There's no clucking like a chicken. Like, you're totally in control of your body. But yeah, it is just really kind of putting your brain into such a relaxed state that you're able to access it and just, yeah, revisit things that you can't really do in your waking state. But that's a lot of where, I guess, our dreams and stuff come from as well, is memories and things from our subconscious mind. Yeah, it is kind of just getting your brain into that state where you're not quite asleep and you're not quite awake.
Have you done it yourself and had a past life kind of journey as well?
I've had a few. My first one was so transformational for me. That's why I became one. I became a regressionist. It's kind of a weird story, but
That's
I
okay.
went through quite a few different lifetimes in the one session. And there were some lifetimes I went through where I didn't trust my judgment and it ended up getting me killed. Yeah. I was just following orders for the sake of following orders and not questioning whether this was right or wrong. And there was another life where I was someone of notoriety and I did everything it took to achieve my goal, and nothing could stand, nothing, and I mean nothing could stand in my way.
Nice. Okay.
And I had another lifetime where I kind of made I was a bit of an outcast. And it was sort of, to paint the picture for you, it was kind of like this pagan German little village a few hundred years ago. And I was helping women that were pregnant and didn't want to be pregnant.
I see.
So I was very much considered a witch and was a bit of an outcast. So I lived on the outskirts of town. But my sister, she had married the preacher man and was very high up in the community. And I had a nephew. So my nephew had become very ill, and my nephew and I were close. So he would come down and visit, and I'd teach him about, the herbs that would help these women when they're in pain, things like that, and show him that there was more to nature, more to life than what God and his dad was kind of preaching about. And he became really sick. He ended up with some sort of plague. My sister and her husband and all that were trying to pray and save him. It just wasn't working. He was going to die. So my sister brings him to me in the middle of the night, like, you have to do something, like, fix it. I don't care what you do, just fix it. I didn't have kids of my own in that lifetime. Like, my nephew was everything to me. And I was like, there is no herb that's going to fix this.
Oh, no.
I was like, he is going to die. But I had heard of these, like, ancient sort of legends of these different rituals you could do potentially to trade a life for a life. So I attempted this ritual, was confronted by these, I don't know, entities of some kind. And they were like, yep, cool, we'll save the kid, but we need someone. So we're going to take you. And because I was so strong-willed, they were only able to take half of me. They took the half they could. The half they left behind, they would try to control. So it kind of had that element of possession. Like, every now and then I would lose control of my body and they'd try to get me to, like, poison the water supply or something horrible to get rid of the village. And I was
salty
like,
because they didn't get the full payment, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So I got to this point where I was like, okay, if I lose control and I keep losing control and they gain more and more control, this is going to be horrible. This is going to kill, like, hundreds of people. I need to do something. So I went to my sister and I was like, you need to tell your husband what I did. Tell him what I did. They'll burn me as a witch. End of story. Like, that'll be it. So I'm like very willingly walking
Hey,
myself
convert me,
out.
convert me.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Very willingly walking myself to the flames. And they did. They burnt me as a witch. But when I got to the other side, I was confronted by these entities again. And they're like, look, this is not how this works. Like, you can't escape us this easily. And they followed me to my next incarnation and were like, you have a debt to pay. So my next life after that, I was in charge of the gas chambers at a concentration camp.
Oh no.
So there was like following orders, but also this sense of, I'm going to pay the shit out of this debt. And
oh man.
yeah, so
They're making you work for it.
Totally.
Goodness.
It was super confronting, but at the same time, I'd done so much personal development work that when I was seeing this, it was something that I was able to handle. And that's a big thing about past life regression, is that your guides and your soul are just, they're not going to show you anything that you're not ready to handle. And so I went through and, you know, worked as a Nazi. I obviously I assumed I would have paid my debt, but because each lifetime I was coming back, I didn't remember the last, they were using that to their advantage. So they're like, well, we'll just keep fucking with her in every lifetime. So fast forward to my current lifetime, the entities that were attacking me when I was vulnerable and intoxicated as a teenager were the same entities.
Wow.
And so this is a lot of the reason why I'd grown up feeling like I wasn't a whole person. I never felt whole, and I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere, and I didn't know who I was. After having this regression, my regressionist took me through this release process to kind of end this contract with these entities and just get my soul back, basically. And so we did that. And when I came out of that regression, I was not the same person I was when I went in. Wow. It was so transformational. Like, I literally, like, the next couple of weeks went and quit my job. Like, went and did all these different, like, I was like, if, you know, because the first lifetime I saw, well, one of the first was the notoriety life of having importance and doing anything to achieve my goals. And I was like, what is stopping me in this life? Like, now that I have my whole soul back, like, what is stopping me?
Yeah.
So I was like, set my path and just go full steam ahead.
Went for it. I love that. That's fantastic. That's so great.
Yeah.
You said you felt like a whole person again. You finally just cut off that line of just being used and taken advantage of by what happened in your previous lifetimes.
Thank you. It's something that a lot of people that are interested in having a regression session with me, they're always like, you know, what, you know, what made you want to do this? And I'm like, well,
like, buckle up. You're about to hear something real quick.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Wow. What was the process for you after that? After you quit your job, you're trying to go and live your life, follow your dreams and stuff like that. What was the progression after that?
So I had quit my job. I had asserted boundaries with different people in my life that I felt were taking advantage, basically, and really just kind of put myself front and center and was like, you know what? I'm done being ashamed. I'm done fighting this ability. I'm done fighting everyone else's expectations of me. I went and did my certification in past life regression. And I just really dived into a lot of self-development work, really kind of worked on healing myself and healing the trauma that my childhood and my teenage years had created in who I was. In doing that work on myself, I just became more dynamic to other people. And they're like, wow, like, what has happened to you? Like, what are you doing that's changed? Because you are so magnetizing now. And we just want to, like, whatever you're doing, we want to do it. And I was like, oh, okay. That's never happened before.
Wow. That's good though that
And
you're giving off such a positive like energy around you. People are attracted to that and they want that for themselves. That's such a good quality to have. And it's interesting to think that due to your past experiences, you've turned into this almost like a completely different person, but in an improved way, you know?
completely different person. And everyone was just like, I want to do that. I ended up starting my business, I guess, of doing past life regression,
Mhm.
and channeling kind of followed with that. It was just kind of stepping more and more into my ability and learning more and more about the other realm and what they have access to, what they're capable of, and how that can benefit people.
Hmm.
And I worked really closely with my spirit team and my guardian, spirit guides, guardian angel, depending on your terminology. But it just became more and more life-changing for not just me but other people. And then that was kind of my new priority. I felt so alone for so long. I felt so disconnected from who I was or who I was meant to be. I felt like I was never whole, and I was going through this crazy shit that
Mhm.
is just off the wall crazy, that if you tried to explain it to anyone, they would think you're insane. You go back 15, 20 years ago, it's not like you could just Google spiritual practitioners or like
Mhm.
energy releasing. It was like there was nothing. It was just,
Like you're on your
1-800
own.
psychic hotlines, and that was it. Like,
Yeah. Not the most reputable, I imagine sometimes.
yeah. So it became this new drive and passion to kind of let other people know, if you're going through this, you're not alone, and that
Mhm.
it's going to be okay. And these are some modalities that can help you connect with who you really are.
You mentioned that you got certified in what was it again to be the past life regression, and what did you say the title of it was?
Oh, QHHT.
Oh, okay, QHHT. What's the process for getting certified for that?
So it is a course, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of theory that goes into the brainwave states of getting someone into that mentality and headspace of being able to regress. So there's a lot of theory behind it, but then there's also a lot that goes into the practice of it, because there's a lot that can, I guess, be influenced with your voice, your speed, the way that you're talking someone into a regression,
Mhm.
and the way that you're releasing whatever they're carrying into the next lifetime, and so on and so on. So the method was created by this woman named Dolores Cannon, and she spent 40 to 50 years developing it. She
Oh,
was
wow.
testing her, I guess, theories and skills and stuff in the military. Her husband was in the military, and so she would work with people from all over the US, and kind of developed the perfect way, the quickest way to get you into that headspace, because a lot of hypnotists, they
Mhm.
have this long drawn out process of getting you to where you need to be, whereas our process is not long at all. We can get you to a theta brainwave state in 5 minutes. It's
Oh,
it's
wow.
not.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow. Is there some special technique, or like how do you get somebody into that state so quickly?
It's just her level of process, I think.
Okay.
It is there's trigger words that
Mhm.
will allow someone to drop in and relax into that kind of brain state. There's
Hmm.
relaxation techniques that are used, and it gets you into a more suggestible state where you are encouraged to relax and let your brain kind of take over from there.
Yeah, that's so cool. Honestly, that is so, so cool. You did mention the cosmic channeling earlier, and that 100% caught my attention because that also sounds super cool. So please tell me about that because I really got to know.
Yeah, so the cosmic channeling, it started out when I obviously started my business and doing the past life
Mhm.
regression. It started out with me connecting with my spirit team and talking to them and kind of relaying the messages back to people. But it had progressed so much from that. I had connected so much more with my team that I was able to trance channel, which means I am basically letting them use my body to communicate with you, kind of blocking out the middleman. So instead of them telling me something and me kind of translating that to you, it's just them basically just telling you whatever they're telling you.
I see.
So that is really cool. I work primarily with my primary guide, which is like my team leader. Her name is Sari, and she was actually my sister in a past life. And when she so the understanding they've given me is that when people die, of course, they go through this review process of their lives and kind of go, yep, check that off the list. I achieved that. I overcame that challenge. I learned this lesson, and yada, yada, yada. And all this is kind of in a attempt to expand your soul's, I guess, consciousness or level. And
makes sense.
Kind of. And so, when people come back through that many lifetimes, hundreds, thousands, 10, depending on your achievements, I guess, they then have this option to be, we kind of give it like promoted, like you're promoted to the next level. So
level up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you get to be a spirit guide. You can generally be a spirit guide for someone that you have known in one lifetime or another. You've had a strong connection with that person. They kind of are then appointed, and you have a team. Supposedly everyone has a team. And of course every team needs a leader, so everyone has a primary. And yeah, they kind of help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve and overcome the challenges that you had put in place for this lifetime. The really cool thing about the teams, though, is like the more we dive into it, the more we realize there's a hierarchy above them and above them. And where that goes eventually, I don't know. But so far, we've got our teams and what one of my team members likes to call upper management, which is like the guys above them.
the whole hierarchy. That's so wild. That's so cool at the same time, though. Did that make you nervous, I guess, interacting with them for the first time? Or how did you feel about it?
Was really, well, I mean, Sari, I had been in contact with since I was about 4 or 5. But being little, I thought her name was Sophie. So I spent like a good couple of decades calling her the wrong name. But she's like, no, it was fine. Like, I knew who you were talking to. And she's
understanding. She gets it.
Yeah, she gets it. And she kind of introduced me like to the rest of the team. I have 9 people on my team. And it's
a pretty solid number.
Yeah. And of course, like that number will vary from person to person. Yeah, it was a little confronting at first, but the more time that I've spent getting to know them, the more time I've connected with them, the more you get to know what's going on, and it doesn't become so scary. Because I think the most scary part is always just not knowing and the unknown.
So say I wanted to like get in contact with my spirit team, how would I go about doing that? Is there anything I can do, I guess myself, that could try to contact them?
Yeah. So a lot of the time when people ask me this, it's kind of like a variable, like a varied answer, because it will depend on how you best connect with your intuition. So Sari has talked about this before, where like we all have our 5 humanly senses, right? Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Our intuition is like a sense, but we so often ignore it. Like, how many times have you had that gut feeling and just gone, no, it's fine, I'm just going to ignore that. We use our senses every day, and our intuition should be, that 6th sense. The more we use our intuition, the more we invite our senses to pick up on more and more that's around us. So your spirit team's always around you, and they're always trying to steer you in a new direction or communicate something with you. But a lot of the time, you're just not perceiving it because that intuition is so far down on the list of senses that it's just unfamiliar. But the more and more you become familiar with it, it's so much easier to connect with them. But the best way to, I guess, initiate the process of your intuition will depend on from person to person. So like if you are someone that really enjoys having a quiet moment and meditating and kind of reflecting, then that might be a good place to start for you. If you're someone who's a writer and you want to do some automatic writing and some journaling and seeing what comes through, that's a good thing to start for you. Like it just depends on what sense you kind of primarily work with.
Okay, so that's like the first step in a longer journey. So
Yes.
once I get in tune with my intuition to like a comfortable degree, where do I go from there, I guess?
You can definitely contact me. Sari loves connecting people with her team, with their team, sorry. And she will generally connect you with at least one or two and then kind of encourage you and suggest to you ways to build on your connection with those. And when you are connected with at least one or two, that connection then grows. And it's like any relationship. If you nurture it, you're going to have a better relationship. So that's definitely one way, but everyone has access to this themselves, honestly. Like it's just when your intuition is at that place of picking up the signals they're putting down, you'll be able to connect with them on your own, and they'll tell you what their name is. They'll tell you what it is that you're looking to find out and be able to connect with them.
How easy is it for you to connect with them? Like it's just automatic at this point?
Within a couple minutes, yeah. Like when I go into trance and Sari comes through, I have a really embarrassing Irish accent, and which I'm slowly becoming used to other people hearing.
Really?
I used to only channel in sessions for people, but now I have started doing reels and that on Instagram, where Sari comes through and answers a question every week. So that has been.
Is that her her original accent is an Irish accent, or where does that come from? Yeah.
Okay, in the lifetime she was in with me, she was Irish.
So now that you said that, I'm 100% going to ask, can we talk to her? Or is that would that be inappropriate to ask?
No, of course you can talk to her. That's fine. So I will just warn you. So she does have the accent, obviously, but she also refers to me as the Raven. So she doesn't use my name. So if she's mentioning the Raven, that's who she's talking about.
And you got a cool nickname out of it too? Oh, that's pretty cool.
Well, supposedly, in a past life, I was very connected to ravens, and the job of the raven, supposedly, in her eyes, is to guide people, well, to go into the shadows and guide people out. So she's like, that's your job. you direct people out of the shadows and into the light. And I'm like,
no pressure. Like
no pressure. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, if you want, I can bring her through.
Yes, please.
Okay, I have to take so I know people can't see me right now, but I have to take my glasses off because she gets mad when I have glasses on. She reckons she doesn't like them.
That's okay.
Okay.
Oh, hi.
How can I assist you?
I just wanted to speak with you. Elle told me about you, and I was really interested in speaking with you.
Aye. It is nice to talk to you also.
Wow. This is a first experience for me, so you have to forgive me if I'm a little nervous.
That's okay. We'll take each moment at a time.
Can you tell me about yourself?
What would you like to know?
Can you remind me of your name again?
My name is Sari.
Sorry.
It is nice to meet you, child.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you too. I really, really like your accent, by the way. I gotta just throw that out there.
Aye. Thank you, child. I believe the raven's not quite so fond of it at times.
So she told me. She did tell me that, and I think it's a wonderful accent.
Aye, I appreciate that, child.
How did you first get in contact with Elle?
We have always been in contact with the child. She
Okay.
has been attached to us from birth.
Hmm.
However, she was not always quite willing.
Oh, why do you think that is?
Like all humans, they go through the sense of fear, and overcoming their fear quite
Hmm.
difficult.
That's understandable. So you are a spirit guide and you know Elle from another life, right?
I
That's
I was her
so
sister
fascinating.
in a past life.
Really? What was that
I
like?
quite different to what they're experiencing now. Quite
Hmm.
a few lifetimes ago for her. But it was the
Seems
one that I was most connected to.
that's really fantastic. How did you help Elle along in her spiritual journey?
This was not all down to me. I have a team of helpers. We work together. Depending on what is needed at the time, we all have different roles to play.
Is there any specific ways that you did help Elle?
I A lot of redirection was needed for her to venture into accepting who she really was.
Like, I'm really happy you did help Elle. She seems like she's in a really good place now in her life.
She's doing quite well and we're quite proud.
Gosh, I don't even know what to ask, to be honest. There's so many things.
Deep breath, child. Questions will come to you.
You're right. You're right. First of all, this is a really cool experience for me to have. And I've been really trying to open up spiritually with myself as well. I've been meditating very frequently. I've been trying to kind of get across to that other plane in a way. So maybe you can help me in helping myself get to that place. Would you have any advice for me?
Child. However, I'm not quite sure you would like everyone to know about this.
Okay.
So hang on a moment. I should explain first, that might help. Ava is our eyes and ears on the team, and she is letting me know that you can edit this part
Mhm.
out if you wish. Is that right? The right word?
Yes, I can edit out anything.
Okay. In that case, a lot of your intuition can be accessed a lot through your dreams, child. You have
Mhm.
an ability to project yourself quite far in your dreams, and not an ability that all people possess. However, the more that you journey through this, the stronger it will become.
Okay,
Tell
thank
me
you.
about your dream, child. I know that you've had a curious one quite recently. Is that right?
Yeah, how did you know that?
I
I've been having a really I usually don't dream, so it's kind of a rarity for me to dream, but the last maybe week or two, I've had a lot of different ones, and ones I find myself waking up within my dream. Probably the one I remember the most is that I was with a group of my coworkers and my boss. We were traveling to a meeting somewhere, but there was a lot of mishaps happening to where we couldn't get to the meeting. And I don't know why that one stuck out with me. And I've been thinking about it for about a week or so now. And I was wondering why, like, why that dream specifically? It seems so mundane. I'm just curious why that stuck with me for so long.
I A lot of dreams have ulterior meanings. A lot of the time, it is your subconscious mind trying to deliver a message to you that you're not receiving from your guides. Your team often reach out to you, child, but you're not quite hearing them yet. And so, this is the best way they have of communicating with you.
Hmm.
However, this particular dream, the reason you are not able to get to the meeting is there is something at this meeting, or somebody at this meeting, that you will have a intense connection with, that you are fearful of.
Hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, I guess so.
So they are
Wow.
trying to redirect you to either overcome this fear, or if you are not ready, to not attend.
Hmm. Wow. That actually, it's so interesting you mentioned that because I just got a new job recently. I work for a an investment company, and I've been really struggling with this job because I've been wanting to make a move down to Austin, Texas, here in the U.S. To live with my girlfriend. But this new job has been very beneficial for me. It's the highest paying job I've had, and I really don't want to lose out on this job. And it doesn't seem like moving to this new location will allow me to keep this job. And I don't know if that's maybe this the reason why I'm struggling so much with it. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me more.
Aye, child. There is a lot to unpack there. You can look at one situation of perhaps not wanting to lose the financial security
Mm-hmm.
of what this job entails for you, or perhaps there is a hesitation to taking the next step and commitment in your relationship. Commitment might be something that you, in turn, are trying to overcome the fear of.
That definitely gives me a lot to think about. Are there any other practices I can use in order to get deeper in touch with my intuition? Any like specific practices, I guess you would recommend?
When you were a child, what did you like to do?
Oh, I definitely really like to play video games a lot as a kid. I still do as an adult as well.
Sorry, I don't know what that is.
A video game. It's like playing a board game, except it's on a TV, like an electronic device that allows me to see.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. I see. Did you draw?
I did, yeah. I did fairly often, I like to think.
I see a lot of illustrations here. Quite a good drawer, if I'm not wrong here.
Yeah, I've been told my drawings are pretty decent.
Aye. Do you still draw?
It's been a while. I've been really wanting to start drawing again, but I'm not sure why I haven't picked it back up.
Aye. Perhaps there is some fear here also. But
Maybe.
child, whatever you are drawing, whatever comes into your mind to draw, that is an instinct, that is a message. You don't always draw from reference. A lot of the time, you draw your inspiration from your imagination. And this can be quite beneficial for you, accessing that imagination and creativity. Because, child, you also have a child on your team, and children on teams are always interesting.
Really?
And they are always fun to connect with. And I would encourage you to connect with him first, as he is going to be the most excitable to be connected to.
Okay. I can do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. He
Is it
quite
right if I
enjoys drawing with you, and I think that will open a lot more channels for you.
Okay. Maybe I should pick it up again.
Would you like to know his name? It might be a little bit more beneficial for you to direct him to.
Yes.
Right. Now, child, little Benjamin here. He's no older than 6 or 7, I believe. You must understand that there is a lot of excitement. I mean a lot of excitement. However, he likes drawing, and he likes drawing with the pens, the different colors. And something here about he's saying he likes, I don't think that's the right word, fantasy.
Oh.
Is there a dragon in the game that you play?
Yes, actually.
Aye, he likes the dragon.
Huh.
So if you want to perhaps draw a dragon with him
Okay.
and maybe try and acknowledge him as being there with you, this will invite more of a connection.
Okay. I think I will do that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
May I speak to Miss Elle now?
I will
Thank
bring the
you.
raven back for you now.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Lovely speaking to you, boy.
You too. Hi, Miss Elle.
Hey.
Hi. Long time to see.
How'd she go? Was she nice?
Absolutely, man. I'm like jaws on the floor. Like I can't even That was very insightful. That was I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Speechless.
That's I am. I really don't know. That was a lot to take in for sure. I love the Irish accent, by the way. I think it was pretty good. No need
I'm
to be
getting used to
embarrassed.
it.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you. So I guess while you're not present, where do you go, Miss L? I guess in the meantime.
The best description I have for it is like when you are driving a car and you jump out of the driver's seat, they jump in the driver's seat, and you sit in the passenger seat. And I often like to think that I'm kind of sitting there and I have my headphones on and I'm listening to music or I'm doing a little meditation, because everyone always asks me, is this draining?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. I know there are a lot of trance channels out there that do find this really draining on their energy, but I think it depends on who they are channeling. And I think channeling your spirit team, it's like channeling family, right? It's
Yeah.
channeling family over different lifetimes, friends, lovers, everything. And it's just feeling that comfort of like, I can let them drive. I know it's gonna be fine. I'll just chill out.
Okay, that's nice. I still can't. I'm like wigging out right now, man. I'm telling you.
Except
That was
I don't usually let Martin drive. He can be a little
Martin.
Martin.
Little Martin. Do you overhear, I guess, what they say to people? Like, could you hear our conversation?
This is where things can vary, right? So if I am sitting in the car in the passenger seat and I'm present, I tend to interfere. And I tend to go, don't say that. Don't say that. They're not ready. We don't know if they're ready. And so then they have to keep stopping and go, hang on a minute. We just have to deal with Elle for a second and tell her to shut up and call it. And it can be a lot more disrupting for them. I usually just kind of zone out. I don't really remember a lot of what they say. But if someone, so in a session, a lot of the time everyone wants to talk about it afterwards, right? So they tell me everything that they say.
Yeah.
And I have now gotten to a habit of audio recording all the sessions because they say things that, you know, either the client will forget about or like, you know, that they want to refer back to. Because it'll be like, oh, it's like if you have like an hour phone conversation, right? You're like, oh, I remember the gist of it, but there were some things that, oh, I can't remember what she said about this. So it's nice being able to listen back to it. But this also makes me have an audio of what exactly she said. So I know that she's following the rules.
The rules? What kind of rules?
Everyone has this assumption that your spirit team are like angelic, right? That they're can do no wrong. But then you have people like Martin, who's on my team, and he has very openly called people wankers. So
I love that. I feel like me and Martin, I think we can get along,
yeah. He can be a vibe, but he can also be very upfront and blunt and inappropriate. Yeah.
I like that. That's pretty good. We did have a very interesting conversation, and I must admit I was pretty skeptical, I guess, when we started, but there's a few things mentioned that I hadn't told anybody, at least like with my recent activities. We mentioned I used to draw a lot as a kid. I really enjoyed drawing up until the past maybe year or so, maybe two. I haven't been drawing at all, and I really have been wanting to. She brought up that childlike sense of excitement, I guess, like within myself, and she mentioned my team. She said there's a child on my team, 6 or 7, I think, named Benjamin.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
every time someone has a child on their team, it's always the first one they go to.
Really?
It's because kids can be impulsive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't like to wait.
Oh, I
And
feel that.
yeah. So it's like she's like, if we introduce the kids first, it kind of takes the pressure off the back burner here so that when the other
Mm-hmm.
guys come through, they're not just kind of exploding with all this information and excitement. Because yeah, they can they can be impulsive.
I feel like I'm kind of impulsive too, so I think it works out. But another thing that really got me is I mentioned video games and had to explain, I guess, what exactly that was. I've been playing this fantasy game lately, which I hadn't told anybody about, which is wild enough as itself. She mentioned, like, is there a dragon in it? I was like, yeah, there's lots of dragons in them. So that was also really trippy. And so I'm convinced. I'm convinced. So homework I got to do. I'm gonna draw a dragon later. That's
Nice.
what I'm gonna do. That's so. Oh my gosh! Thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciated that, and I'm sure my
Yeah,
audience
no worries.
will definitely like that as well. Um,
It's always the best part for me when I like come back and just see, because I mean, like, if someone was not skeptical, I would question them. Like,
yeah, I feel like I'm
like,
a healthy skeptic, but like I'll believe everything like 50%. There's always that other 50% where I'm like, I don't know.
yeah.
Totally convinced.
It's funny for me when
Is it?
she tells people stuff, then they're like, I have no idea how she knew that. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm used to her just knowing shit. She's nosy.
Yeah. So cool. Where can my audience find more info about you, what you do? Lay it all on me. I want to know it all, and I'm sure my audience would love to as well.
Yeah. So the best way to find me is probably my website. So it's elleembers.com.
Mhm.
And I have information on there. I'm very kind of overbearing with so much information sometimes. So there's lots of information you can find there about past life regression and what's involved in a session and what to expect. And same with channeling. You can find all the information there about channeling and what to expect. I do in-person and remote sessions, so you can be anywhere in the world. It is totally fine. And I'm also on Instagram, which is l.embers. And like I said, I do work in a clinic part-time and operate in person. So the clinic that I work in, we do a weekly segment that's Ask Sorry. So we're now posting reels. So yeah, definitely check those out.
Yes, please follow Miss L. It has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, loved
Awesome.
it. It's been so much fun.
Of course. That was Elle Embers. Thank you guys for listening to the episode. I had a great time talking with her. I didn't really know much about past life regression or cosmic channeling, and I'm very grateful that I was able to talk to her and she told us all about it. It was all very fascinating. I think the most interesting thing, though, was her cosmic channeling demonstration. That kind of got me fucked up, not gonna lie. There was a lot of crazy things that just matched in my experience in life that I hadn't told anybody prior, and the fact that she was able to share these things with me that I hadn't told anybody really wigged me out, man. I think the most notable thing that we discussed during the cosmic channeling session was when we discussed my dream. Like I said before in the episode, I don't really dream very often, so the fact that I had this dream and it stuck with me for so long is very out of the ordinary for me. And the fact that that was the first thing she mentioned and discussed was absolutely bonkers. But either way, it was really interesting and I very much enjoyed speaking with her, and I hope you all enjoyed our conversation as well. And thank you for joining us. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.